Most of us grew up with the childhood myth of the sleeping bag, the comforting idea that a caterpillar simply naps in a silk pouch and wakes up with wings. But the biological reality is far more chaotic, violent, and precise. This is the story of holometabolism, a type of complete metamorphosis where an animal undergoes a total reorganization of life. It is not a simple growth spurt. It is a fundamental erasure of one body plan to build another. Butterflies and moths cycle through 4 distinct stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Every single facet changes: the body structure, the lifestyle, the diet, and even the way the animal depends on sensory cues. How does a creature literally dissolve its own identity to build a new one without becoming an undifferentiated soup? I promise to reveal the truth behind the preschool version of this transformation, where the reality is far stranger than the myth. Think of the larva, the caterpillar, as a biological eating machine. Its entire existence is a single-minded obsession with calories. It must consume massive amounts of energy to fuel the coming reconstruction because the metabolic cost of building an entirely new body is astronomical. Consider the monarch butterfly. When it hatches, it is so tiny it could fit on the tip of a pencil eraser. In just a few weeks, however, that same creature becomes more than 5 times longer and nearly 1,000 times heavier. That is an incredible amount of biomass. To achieve this, a monarch caterpillar can consume over 100 leaves in a single day. Most of these creatures are voracious herbivores, though a few have been known to be cannibalistic. This relentless feeding builds the muscles, gut, and internal organs, but the outer shell, the exoskeleton, creates a strict physical limit. To grow, the caterpillar must molt, shedding its skin multiple times. Some species increase their body mass by a factor of 100 before pupation. It is as if the caterpillar is not a separate animal, but a highly efficient, mobile delivery system for calories. For years, we viewed the caterpillar as a blank slate. But researcher Arnaud Martin challenged that by proving that a larval wing can be extracted from a living caterpillar. It is a shock to realize that proto-wings, or wing buds, are present inside that soft, crawling body. These are part of the imaginal discs, tiny cellular clusters that contain the genetic blueprint to form antennae, eyes, and wings from the inside out. These imaginal discs allow a holometabolous insect to survive the pupal transformation and emerge as a fully formed adult, or imago. Everything shifts after the second to last molt. At this moment, the caterpillar's body releases a growth hormone that signals it to stop feeding and seek a location to anchor itself. The hunger vanishes. The mission is now purely structural. The caterpillar secretes a dab of silk, creating a base to suspend itself. Here we must correct a common misconception. We often imagine the chrysalis as a silk sleeping bag constructed by the insect, like a cocoon. But a chrysalis is not woven silk. It is the caterpillar's own skin, a cuticle made of chitin. When the caterpillar sheds its skin one final time, the hardened shell of its own body becomes the armor for the pupa. Inside this chitinous jacket, the organism is physiologically self-sufficient. It does not need to eat, drink, or breathe in the same way the larva did. Instead, it lives off the massive protein and calorie stores it hoarded during the larval phase. The caterpillar has become a closed system of energy, waiting for the signal to trigger the internal collapse. Now we enter the part that feels more like a horror movie than a natural history documentary. Once the caterpillar is sealed inside the chrysalis, the body begins a process of systematic self-destruction. It is not a resting period. It is a cellular massacre. Specialized enzymes called caspases act as molecular scissors, ripping apart the caterpillar's muscles, digestive system, and organs. Hormones activate digestive enzymes that break down the cell's proteins, which the pupa then recycles to fuel the metamorphosis. In a very literal sense, the pupa eats itself. The jaws, gut, and those stubby little legs are broken down into a nutrient-rich fluid, a biological soup where the old architecture is entirely dissolved to fuel the new construction. But if the body melts into a liquid, how does the organism maintain any continuity? This is one of the most startling discoveries in entomology. Studies on tobacco hornworm moths suggest that memories acquired as a caterpillar can persist through the melt of metamorphosis. Researchers exposed caterpillars to a specific scent paired with an electric shock. When these caterpillars pupated and emerged as moths, they still actively avoided that scent. This implies that the nervous system is not entirely wiped clean. A subset of neural connections, a scaffold of the brain, survives the dissolution, allowing the insect to retain information despite the total redesign of its physical body. Scientists have used micro-CT scans to finally observe this internal reorganization in real time. The imagery is stunning. Inside the chrysalis, you can watch the butterfly's eyes, antennae, and body shape change. Those imaginal discs we mentioned, they are no longer dormant seeds. They expand and proliferate, growing into functional wings right inside the casing. This architectural precision is remarkable as thousands of cells coordinate to create complex structures from a nutrient soup. But how does the adult escape? The process, called eclosion, is triggered by a hormonal shift. When juvenile hormones fade, the brain releases a final trigger, signaling the insect to break the chrysalis wall. As the shell splits open down the center, the adult emerges, but it is not yet the aerial marvel we recognize. At first, the wings are small and wet. To fix this, the butterfly hangs upside down and pushes a blood-like substance, specifically fluids, through its wing veins via hydraulic pressure. This internal pump stretches the membranes until they lock into place, hardening for the first flight. Why endure such biological chaos? One leading theory is that holometabolism prevents the parent and the young from competing for the same resources. It is a strategic divide. While caterpillars graze on leaves, adult butterflies sip nectar, or in some species, drink fluids from sweat, urine, or decay. This ensures they are never fighting over the same plant on the same branch. Some take this to an extreme. There are adult moths born without mouths, existence as a short, frantic sprint toward reproduction, fueled entirely by the calories stored during their larval life. This is called adaptive decoupling. It allows the caterpillar to perfect the art of growth without compromising the butterfly's need to find a mate. By splitting their lives into two distinct bodies, they have mastered two entirely different ways of surviving. The butterfly's journey is just one version of this biological hack. Approximately 8 in 10 insects, including beetles, flies, bees, and ants, undergo holometabolism. That is nearly 60% of all animal species on Earth. Depending on the venue, the transformation is wildly different. Moths, for example, spin a silk cocoon, a silky sleeping bag that contrasts with the hard chrysalis of the butterfly. Ants undergo their metamorphosis inside enormous colonies, pampered by older sisters. Bees, meanwhile, undergo their change inside tiny hexagonal prison cells. Some go deeper. Beetles and cicadas often undergo metamorphosis buried in the ground. And flies? They may undergo metamorphosis in a dead body or a hunk of poo. The diversity of these biological blueprints is simply incredible. It all comes down to a high-stakes evolutionary gamble. A monarch butterfly, which once grew 1,000 times heavier than its tiny start, is now an aerial creature. It began as a cluster of just a few dozen cells in an imaginal disk, and thanks to the hormone ecdysone, it completely re-engineered its own existence. Now the cycle begins again. Adult butterflies mate end-to-end, with their abdomens connected. During this process, the male butterfly transfers a spermatophore, a packet of sperm, to the female. Fertilization typically occurs at the moment she's about to lay the egg. To ensure the next generation survives, female butterflies lay eggs on specific host plants, choosing them based on leaf color, plant shape, or by tasting leaves with her feet. This shift from a stomach on legs to a winged marvel is the ultimate evolutionary strategy. Holometabolism is so successful that the majority of animal life on this planet utilizes it. It proves that being two different animals in one lifetime is not a burden, but a brilliant, highly effective way to navigate the world. What else is hidden in the silence of that chrysalis, waiting to be understood? Curiosity hook, added sensory cues, and adult stage to restore original reference draft content. Scene setup, restored biomass and the detail that monarchs eat over 100 leaves a day. Scene setup, restored gut as part of the internal organ development. The event, restored second-to-last molt and the detail that the organism does not need to breathe in the same way as the larva. The strange part, restored jaws, gut, and stubby little legs to make the nutrient soup more concrete. The strange part, restored the tobacco hornworm moth example for memory persistence. Investigation/response, restored body shape change and body shape to the CT scan description. Investigation/response, restored splits open down the center to the eclosion process. Investigation/response, restored blood-like substance to describe the wing fluids. Theories, restored on the same branch to the resource competition theory. Scale/context, restored pampered by older sisters, ants, and poo, flies, to restore the original reference draft specific examples of metamorphosis venues. Restored the specific biological process of mating, the spermatophore transfer, and the criteria for female egg laying, leaf color, plant shape, tasting with feet, word count 1443 to 1612, duration estimate 10.5 minutes to 11.2 minutes.